All right, welcome back, everybody. So at the moment, I've got a little game here. Not really a game, but the ability to move my character around on this platform or off the platform, and we'll get to all sorts of different options a little bit later. But I want to first of all tweak some of the movement a little bit, and also make this look a little nicer. This is a really kind of plain, boring. We've got a generic beige color scheme going on for pretty much everything. So let's have a look at how we can tweak that a bit. First of all, my movement's okay, but maybe I want to tweak this speed a little bit. And I wanted to look at the coding that we've done so far and maybe make it a little more efficient. So I'll just zoom in a bit here. So at the moment here, we're moving, seem to be 5 in all directions. -5, 5 here, and for left and right, everything is moving at 5 if I'm not moving still. Now, this code looks a little bit ugly here, so I'd like to figure out how we could clean that up a little bit. So the first thing I want to do is, let's say I wanted to move 7 as a general speed. Well, I would have to go into each one of these um, fives and change it to a 7 and then test it out. And then maybe I realize it's 8 or it's 6 or something like that. But whenever you're using numbers directly in your coding, especially when you're repeating them, that can be a little bit problematic. It slows us down. So we can fortunately kind of speed this up a little bit as just as a general practice in order to have one spot where I want to change things. So at the moment here, I can make a something called, let's call it move speed. And I'm going to make move speed equal to, let's say I wanted to move that 7. Now, I can't just say move speed equals 7. In the past, you may have used a programming where you'd create a variable. And if I wanted to make a variable, I could totally do that. In Godot, it's simply var move speed and then make it equal to something. And I can use that a little bit later. Now, this works great and could totally work. And it would be very handy if later on you wanted to, say, get some power-ups and be able to change the speed of your player. Then a variable is exactly where you want to land. But in this case, I don't have any plans for that. Um, so slightly better would be to use what's called a constant. So a variable is nice. It's a little box that we create in the computer's memory and we store that. But whenever we make a box in the computer's memory, we take up some of that memory. And it's super handy and very useful if you plan on changing that, if a variable is indeed going to be variable. But in this case, my move speed is not going to change in the game. It's going to be one thing that I've programmed it to. So we can make something a little bit different. In this case, we're going to call it a const for a constant. And a const is a lot like a variable. It's something that can't be changed. And one of the conventions we use with this is so I know the difference between my constants and my variables. Constants are not supposed to be changed. I can't make my constant move a little bit faster in the game by getting a power up or slowing it down. It's always going to be 7. So I make this all caps, move speed, just so that I know it's not a variable. It's not something I'm supposed to change later on. And the difference for the computer, at least, is that it doesn't create a box and put the number in it. It actually, when I hit this run, when I hit play, it goes through and wherever it sees the word move speed, it just puts in the number 7. And fortunately, what that allows me to do in my code is just make it a little cleaner and a little tidier, but also if I change my mind, I can make that 8 or 9 or 20 or whatever I want to have. So I'm going to introduce this move speed constant, and then I'm going to tidy up my programming a little bit here. So I could switch out the -5 for negative move speed and the 5 for move speed and go on. But I also noticed that this is kind of messy here, that I got all these zeros all over the place. it looks a little bit sloppy. And so fortunately, we have the ability with a vector 3 variable to just change the particular thing we want. So in this case, I'm changing the x, y, the z feature. So instead of saying the whole velocity is going to equal this, I can say I just want to change the z portion of this vector 3. So I'm going to say velocity dot z is equal to, and that would be -5, or in this case, negative move speed. So you can see it just tidies it up a little bit, and we're including less unnecessary information. So similarly, this will be velocity dot z equals move speed. The left here, velocity, it's my x, y, z, so my x, velocity period x, is equal to negative move speed, because it's -5 here, and the velocity dot x dot x dot x, there we go, is equal to move speed. Else, and I notice here because I'm going to be working with the x and y's, and later on I'm going to be actually being able to jump. So I want to change this one here as well. I just want to say I don't want to move in the x direction or the z direction. So I'm going to say velocity dot x equals 0, and this is just me thinking ahead here. Velocity dot z equals 0. That way I'm not going to be monkeying with my falling or jumping later on when I'm pressing these. All right. And here I'm using 0 because, when I'm not changing the stop speed, it's just 0. So now we've got a constant, and I've just cleaned up my programming a little bit here so that I'm just changing the value that I'm interested in. And now I can move up, down, left, or right. The other added, oh no, we got an LF there, so it still is. Oh, it does work actually. The other added bonus here is that I can now hold 2 keys down and move at a diagonal because I'm not stopping. Now, depending on your keyboard, it might not like you pressing multiple different things. Or maybe I didn't put LFs everywhere. I did put LFs everywhere. We'd have to play around with that a little bit to get the angle moving properly, I realize, because it all depends on which one you're pressing first. But you should be able to now move around at a speed of 7, and maybe I wanted to move way faster. Now all I have to do is change it in one spot, and whew, we get really fast movement all the way around here. Or go super slow and play that there. So it really just helps us out. Let's try that 7 I liked. It helps us out in our programming, be able to make really quick changes and not have to worry about missing something down here, forgetting to change a number, and whenever possible, we get rid of numbers from our programming. All right. So next I wanted to look at some cleaning up of the graphics and making it look a little prettier, but let's do that in our next video to keep this one nice and short. So we've here just cleaned up, introduced the idea of constants, and cleaned up our movement code a little bit.